Hey everyone, welcome back to another market update with the Patti Martin team. This is October 7th, and these are the stats for September. So let's dive into it. But first, there's a new mortgage policy that we want to mention. Make sure that you talk to your mortgage broker about how this affects you. But just a couple quick comments on it. In order to ease pressures on existing homeowners, there's going to be no stress test on renewals. My panel of experts, what does this kind of mean for existing homeowners, new buyers, financial pressures? Like, give me your overall thoughts about this. Like, we're not stress testing renewals.
So I think this is really advantageous for homeowners. So I think that if you had previously qualified with a stress test, but something about your current situation has changed, you're breathing a sigh of relief that you don't have to go through another stress test at a newer, higher level when the rates have obviously, they're elevated since the last time you qualified. So I think this is a huge win for homeowners. I think they can kind of breathe a sigh of relief. Not to say that, things are still challenging. I mean, obviously their payments are higher, so they're going to be wrestling with that, but at least they have to figure out how they're making the payment. The bank isn't saying, hey, sorry, you're not qualified. They're going to just renew you and move on.
Yeah, for this one, it's definitely going to be easier for renewals. There's no question about it. In terms of pricing long term on this one, I think it's going to kind of keep prices sustained because there's not going to be that huge rush to market of sellers who would otherwise be out of their homes because of this mortgage stress test. I don't have any numbers on this. I don't know how many people this really affects, but that was always my concern when we think about, you qualified at 3% and now it's 6%, but you're actually stress testing at 8%. So I think it's going to ease a lot of people. I do think it gives a little bit more risk for lenders because they don't verify incomes. They don't verify jobs for the renewal. But at the same time, having said that, they're not going to compete with other banks because you're not going to be switching over.
So they'll keep the business.
Now there's a stress test.
But I think you're right. I think that at one time we thought, gee, when those people come up for renewal, are they going to sell things because they can't kind of, meet the new qualifications? That's no longer a thing. So maybe that inventory will stay, not available for buyers.
Okay.
The only thing is that it wasn't so much of a looming stress test that was the worry. It was whether people could actually truly afford.
Right.
So whatever the stress test is one thing, but what your actual payment is where the the rubber hits the road. So I would say that while we might see less worry on the part of homeowners, there's still going to be some stress as people's mortgages renew, which is, hopefully going to coincide with some reductions in the rates so that not so many people are that stressed out.
Yeah.
Good point. Okay, let's jump on over into the stats. And this one here, my question to you guys before we get into the numbers is, are recent rate reductions affecting demand in real estate?
No.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think
Not
so.
at all.
What's going on out there? Rates are dropping. It's a buyer's market, right?
We talked about this last month. The minute things start to turn in favor of whoever's in charge, in other words, the buyers right now, they start to get more confident and they believe that there's going to be more rate cuts and more open opportunities for them. And so far, they're right. So it's hard to say, or it's hard to argue with that, right? But, there comes a point where you don't want to play chicken for too long and things turn around. So buyers, you're in the driver's seat right now. Take advantage of it and buy something. The rates are going to be a little bit better when you close, and there's a lot of opportunity to negotiate right now, and that will not last forever.
I agree. Yeah, the other thing I'd like to add to that is I think that once we see the return of the first-time home buyer, we're going to know that the rate reduction is actually having an effect. So when we're going to see those kind of one bedrooms that are, just, shy of a certain number, that once those start to really turn over really quickly, or they start to really get into multiple offers, we'll know that the first-time home buyer, who this particularly affects, to get into the market, then we'll know. That'll be the signal.
That's a good observation. The board has come out and said that sales over the past year have declined 3.8%. Now, this is only a 2.7% decline month over month. So really, there's not a lot of change in like a drop in sales. So sales they've slugged along. They've kind of remained active. But this is the 5th consecutive month of sales declines. Like last month when we were talking about there's a provincial election, there's the federal election, there's interest rate drops, there's economic factors. Would you say that any one of these is swaying people to delay or get into the market soon?
Yeah, I think it's a combination. Yeah, it's a combination of the...
It's like everything that ever happens. I mean, I watched this show once about plane crashes, and they said it's not because of one thing, it's because of 5 things.
Right.
And that's exactly what's happened here. It's not one thing. It's a combination, as Jen says, of many things that have created this instability in the brain of buyers. I don't want to make a decision. And suddenly, sellers are like, well, maybe it is time to move. And so we have this fascinating combination of a little bit too much inventory and not enough demand. And then suddenly the market turns.
Well, and that's what I was going to say. I think that, sure, one thing is that we have fewer sales, but the big deal is we have a growing inventory. And so this is really all adding up to this kind of malaise in the market.
And one last thing, Adam, one last thing that I noticed this last month is that we probably through August and most of September had a pretty inactive market. Around the last week of September and into the first week of October, there has been a pickup of activity for sure. Not to the degree of the spring of this year or the fall or the previous year before that, but definitely more interest. So the sky is not actually falling. It's just a little cloudy.
Yeah,
exactly.
I remember saying it before. This is Metro Vancouver. It's a very desirable place to live. Things will go up, things will go down, but that's a market for you. But this isn't doom and gloom. It's not a crash. And to agree to your statement, I was setting up a tour for 2 buyers and calling places, and now accepted offers, or it's sold, or so I'm running into some roadblocks here. But
exactly.
The numbers are still down. Moving on, we'll talk about newly listed inventory and then the total inventory on the market. This was an interesting one that I was just reading about. So year over year, the amount of newly listed for sale this month was up 13%. But month over month, so from August into September, we had an increase in new listings of 49%.
Wow.
So a lot more active sellers getting onto the market. Now, I have my own reasons for this, and I want to ask you guys, I think you're going to say the exact same thing. Is this new inventory cause a 50% increase in new listings, or is this recycled inventory?
I'd say there is a lot of people that would like to move. They're reviewing their options. It's interesting because I was at an evaluation this afternoon before this meeting, and I was with someone who's pretty conservative, and I told him, this is a way better market for you to move in because you are going to sell your house. We're going to price it correctly. It's going to take a little bit longer. It's going to give you a chance to feel comfortable that you've really marketed it well. And then when you sell, you're going to have the opportunity to choose from a few more properties. You're not going to be making a decision to jump into a multiple offer of 7 offers. You're probably going to be writing your own offer with no other competition. So in fact, like personally, this is my favorite kind of market because people get to make decisions that are much more well thought out and less pressure on them. And then they're happier with their decision afterwards. It's just that it takes more time. It takes more time, and that's okay. Right. We don't have to live at 90 miles an hour. We could do 45 and it's fine. It's fine.
It really allows both buyers and sellers to be far more deliberate than in a really fast market when they're, under duress to make a decision.
There's a lot of pressure.
That makes it safer for everybody. Like you said, everybody in the end, when everything's slowed down, can make a better, more thought out decision. It's safer. More people are happy in the end. And that's what everybody wants here. Moving on then. total number of properties currently listed for sale is just shy of 15,000. We're at 14,932.
Wow.
It's 31% increase year over year, but only 8.1% month over month. So massive dump of inventory new to the market, but total inventory is only up, 8.1% month over month.
It's a big difference from where we were at the beginning of the year. So
Yeah.
I think when we do turn around to look back at the predictions, when we roll around, I think we are going to see that we predicted that there would be a lot more inventory at the end of the year. And that looks like where we're headed. 15,000, that's a lot of listings.
Mm-hmm.
So my question to you guys is, what is motivating sellers? We know in Metro Vancouver that there's about 40-50% of homeowners that just don't need to sell. They do not need to participate in this market whatsoever. There doesn't seem to be a lot of distress selling. We're talking to our mortgage brokers. There's no foreclosures. Like, they're not a real thing. Like, they're under 1% still. What's motivating people to get their house on the market, and seemingly a lot of people at the same time?
So some of it is, I was talking to someone, again, not an hour ago, about his property that's a rental. And he does not want to be a landlord anymore because the rules are so heavily slanted in favor of tenants that he feels he's putting himself at risk as time goes on. So that's one reason. We're an aging population, which, I fall into. And at some point, you decide big houses aren't right for you and you want to move on. So those are all reasons. And there's a lot of baby boomers in that situation right now. A lot.
Yeah.
So, and as friends, it's kind of like you catch a cold. Like, as friends do it, everybody sort of jumps on board, right? And that sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, a
And
little bit of that domino.
Everyone thinks it's a good idea. So there's that. There's that too.
Yeah.
Awesome. Just really quickly to talk about sales to active listing ratio. Detached is by far the worst. We're sitting at a 9.1 sales to active listing ratio. So anything under that, like 14%, is going to be a buyer's market.
Buyer's market. Haven't said that for a while.
Balanced, and then anything above 20 is 100% seller's market. So 9.1 for detached, 16.9 for like townhouses, duplex, 14.6 for apartments. So we can see affordability. Everybody's kind of going to those townhouse duplexes, and then detached is, I want to say it's getting hammered, but there's options out there. I think the good stuff, well priced will still sell. What are you guys seeing out there?
Well, we have some pretty good listings. Like, I think our group prides itself on being fairly current and fairly truthful with our sellers. Like that's my shtick. I like to tell it as it is, so that in 3 months, if it's not sold, we don't look foolish. So I think we have some very well priced listings, and we are not getting showings on all of them. And that is surprising to me, especially at the sort of entry level of house and the entry level of condo. I'm surprised. I really am.
Yeah, I'm seeing a little bit of an uptick on activity. I would tend to agree with you. The stuff that's attractive, well priced, is very likely going to sell. But again, I had a couple tours this weekend trying to set up showings, and so running into, we have an accepted offer, or the property is sold, and we just have to move on. So again,
I think the one thing I would like to add in this space is that I have the same situation, Adam, but I'm also running into subject to sale, because I think it's that's something that more than any time in the last, past 10 years, practically, I don't remember a time when I see this many subject to sales. And it's often when I'm working with a downsizing client who's taken that leap, they've put their home on the market. We're waiting for that activity. Maybe we're just kind of previewing so that they know that there's something they'll be able to move into. I make the call, and the next thing I know, but by the way, we have an accepted offer. There is a subject to sale, but that's something I'm running into.
That's a good point. You're also seeing, every once in a while, you see a seller subject to purchase. I've run into that a couple times, but that's a very good observation.
They're worried about what they're going to buy. Yeah. Yeah.
It's funny that they're worried about what they're going to buy because you have so much inventory. But that
Inventory.
tells you that the inventory isn't very good all the time. So
Yeah.
that's the
And
balancing
some
that
of
we're kind of
it's
seeing.
really incorrectly priced right now, because when
Yeah.
you come off of a market where you've got a lot of demand and very little inventory, and people are used to pricing, in their favor, suddenly the reality of a market shift is it's hard to manage. And I go back to the conversations I have with people. I don't know, take a look at your RSPs and tell me how many times they might have shifted 5 to 10%. And that's basically what's happening with our market right now. It's somewhere between 3 and 7%, depending on what it is that the prices have shifted, for sure. And then if you're priced right, it does sell. Like I said, at the end of September, early October, we sold quite a few of our listings.
Yeah, we saw that uptick.
Awesome. To wrap it up, we have an anticipated 2 more rate reductions coming, potentially a big one here at the end of October, and another one in December is what we're figuring. Will buyers come off the market? Will it eliminate the hesitation? Give me the crystal ball, guys, and we'll wrap it up.
Okay, my crystal ball is we're looking early spring before we see much of a change. I think people's level of tolerance for what was going on is still not exhausted. In other words, they're tired of what was going on, and eventually people get bored. And it's usually after holidays and things that have all happened, and we're all of a sudden into January, we're kind of bored. Hey, let's think about moving. That's when we start to see a bit of an uptick again. I don't think we will see it till then. I think it'll be a little bit challenging for sellers. But if you're for sale, price it well and be the one that sells. Don't let someone else set the price and then you have to be below that. That's the first thing. And the second thing is, if you're a buyer, my goodness, get out there and start looking. You're about to see another 2 rate drops before you probably complete. And you've got inventory to look at and understand the market. And there are sellers that are willing to negotiate. And man, we haven't had that for a while.
Excellent points.
I don't think I could have said it better myself. Thank you very much for joining. If any one of our viewers has any questions, feel free to call, text, reply to on the YouTube, create a YouTube comment. We'll get back to you. We love this type of discourse. So reach out. We're usually here and very friendly and love to go for coffee.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Adam.
Have a great afternoon.
Talk soon. Bye.